The following program deals with a controversial subject. The theories expressed are not the only possible interpretation. Viewers are invited to make a judgment based on all available information.
This is your captain speaking. We are beginning our descent into madness.
Open your mind.
And we are back to another edition of West of the Rockies. I'm Frank. Thank you guys for sticking around. I know it's late for some of you, but boy, do we have a special treat tonight. Genevieve, how you doing?
I'm doing quite all right, thank you.
You enjoying the time change? This was our first week with we're back to Pacific Standard Time here in the West Coast.
Oh, it's too much, because my family back in Europe have a different time change. So theirs changes at a different time on top of that. Just stick to the same time, Earth.
No, it sounds pretty bad. Shout out to everybody tuning in tonight through Ustream, iHeartRadio. If you're catching the podcast, hello to you, sir and madam. I hope everyone's doing lovely.
Just one sir and one madam.
Just one sir and one madam per show. A little quick bit of news. There was sort of a UFO sighting. There was visible here in California, and it was visible as far as Nevada and Arizona. Doing the kind of show that we do, we heard a lot about it. I've seen a few rocket launches, not NASA, big rocket launches, but some rocket launches, some missile launches. And judging by the video, that's what it looked like to me. So I wasn't quick to jump on the it's a UFO thing. Now, it turns out that it was actually a Trident II missile test launch. And it's really interesting. I was looking into this. Trident II missiles are actually used to deter a nuclear attack. The particular one that was launched was not armed, but obviously the social media was on fire. And here's the thing. That if there is a UFO sighting over a city, that's what should happen. That's why I'm always worried about the one person that records like that one video on YouTube and there's no other videos of it.
Yeah.
And, if it's something that's seen over a metropolitan area, especially the size of LA, you expect hundreds of people to see it, like it happened in this case. I was reading that a gentleman by the name of Ryan Perry, who's a commander in the Navy's Third Fleet, said that this was part of a scheduled ongoing systems evaluation test. And these launches are conducted on a frequent, recurring basis to ensure the continued reliability of the system. Everybody was a little angry because, well, if you knew you were going to do this, how come you didn't let people know? And instead, you waited a whole hour, as MUFON pointed out on their Twitter, to tell people that it was a test. The reason for that seems to be that because it was a test launch of this particular missile, they didn't want Russia or China to know about it because the early stages of launch are the most important. Because they can gather a lot of information as far as the fuel, the speed, trajectory, et cetera, et cetera. So they were keeping it secret because of that. But it seems that LAX, LA International Airport, had advance notice that something was... Never heard of it? Oh, the lovely place. I recommend you go there on a Sunday afternoon. Great place for picnics. LAX seemed to have had advance notice because they were told that nighttime flights in and out of LAX were to avoid passing over the Pacific Ocean just west of the airport because apparently they were going to be doing some tests there, and this is what Reuters reported.
Yeah.
So, look, I'm all for a good UFO sighting. Believe me, I am. But sometimes you got to, believe her if you don't believe me. But sometimes we got to call them for what they are. And it looks like this was a missile test. Now, if you want to put on the conspiracy cap on, ask yourself a question. Was it really a test of this missile for these purposes, or was it something else? I'll leave that story there. ... We shall discuss that later. I also want to send a quick shout out to our good friend Ernie Alonso, who actually spent the weekend in Snowflake, Arizona at the Skyfire Summit. Speaking of UFOs, it was the 40th anniversary of Travis Walton's abduction in the forest of Snowflake, Arizona.
Is that something you celebrate in a positive way, in a commemorative way, right?
I'll say positive just because I think it opens everybody's...
It was an advancement in terms of knowledge. Yeah.
As far as to this phenomena, right? Still one of the most
It's just anniversary
well-documented
sounds so
cases.
Celebratory.
We interviewed Travis, we've interviewed Stanton Freeman, man who was the first one to interview Travis back in 1975 about his UFO abduction. And honestly, I'm still perplexed by it. To me, it's quite the mystery. So I want to send a shout out to Ernie Alonso of Haunted Orange County, who was down there with another good friend of ours, Ben Hansen of Sci-Fi's Fact or Fake. He is actually tonight hosting the premiere episode of UFOs Declassified on the Smithsonian Channel. So if you're listening to us now, you probably missed it because that was at 8 p.m., but I'm sure you can catch the replay after the show. You know how cable TV is. They
always have like the +1 channels now as well.
Oh, do they?
Which is basically the hour later version.
Oh, wow. So with that bit of news, Genevieve, I believe you got a little introduction tonight for our guest.
All right. Well, we do have to welcome Steve on the show tonight. Steve Concotelli is executive producer of the Outatime documentary, which we'll be talking about this evening. Steve's been making award-winning television for over 20 years now, and in that time, he's worked pretty much every job in the industry, eventually landing him where he is now as an executive producer. Steve has helped create over 500 hours of television with partners including Universal Studios, Paramount Pictures, Discovery Channel, TruTV, CMT, Spike, G4, and many others. I am super excited to be able to welcome him onto the show.
Steve, can you hear us all right?
Yes, I can. Hello, and what a fancy introduction. I sound so important when you say it like that. Thank you.
You are quite an important gentleman, and thank you so much for taking the time for being with us tonight. We really, really appreciate it.
Oh, it's my pleasure. It was interesting hearing you talk about the rocket launch because I'm in Los Angeles, and so that's been all a buzz, with all my Facebook friends. And I had been watching the military helicopters fly out over the ocean and fly back for the last few days, and so it's nice to know that what it was about.
Yeah. I mean, it definitely, I can understand a lot of people really excited about it, and we're living in some interesting times. I'll say that much, politically and otherwise. So I can understand, people's panic. Talk about things that go up like a rocket. You just did this documentary, and it was included in the 30th anniversary box set of Back to the Future, and it was called the Outatime: Saving the DeLorean Time Machine. We're huge fans of the movie, as you can imagine. Life-changing, it's an understatement in my case. But how does one grow up to make a documentary about restoring such an iconic piece of movie history?
Partly just by chance, and partly by hard work. I mean, I had been a fan since the film came out, probably just like you. I saw it in the theater. I was a pretty young kid, and it just made this huge impression on me. So, now I live in Los Angeles. I work in television, and I just so happen to be very good friends with several of the time machine replica builders in Los Angeles.
Okay.
And one of them was named Joe Walser, and Joe, for people in the Back to the Future world, he's, I would say, hands down the best replica builder in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And
wow.
Joe and I, we're children of the 80s. We had a lot in common, and we got along very well. And then when Bob Gale, who produced Back to the Future, asked Joe to restore the car, Joe, of course, jumped on the chance, and then that gave me a chance to document the process and try to bring the story to the fans.
Wow. And I was reading, correct me if I'm wrong, but yeah, Bob Gale handpicked Joe for this project, correct? I imagine he must have been, ecstatic would be, again, an understatement.
Yeah, it is. I mean, Joe is really at the epicenter of Back to the Future. Joe was the co-chair of the 25th anniversary celebration that happened in 2010. I don't know if you were in Los Angeles about 2 weeks ago for the Back to the Future 30th anniversary date that just happened, the big one. But Joe was the co-chair of the big We're Going Back fan celebration. It was a 5-day complete blowout, where they showed the movie out at the Puente Hills Mall where they shot the film. And I mean, Joe was the organizer, the co-organizer with Ken Kapolowski of all those events. So Joe is really like at the center of all things Back to the Future. So when Bob asked him, to answer your actual question, when Bob asked him to do the restoration, I mean, he couldn't say yes fast enough.
This is what puzzles me, because the DeLorean is a very unique car. It was the brainchild of John DeLorean only model really to ever go into production. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the estimate was something around 9,000 DeLoreans, DMC-12s were made, and something around 6,000 are still around. How do you go about finding parts for a car that has been out of commission for decades? And on top of that, where do you find the parts to restore a movie car that obviously, these were probably handcrafted parts specifically for the film?
Ah, yes. And see, you're getting into the very heart of what the film talks about. Finding parts for a DeLorean, they're not as difficult as you can imagine. DeLorean, a version of the DeLorean company still exists. So getting parts for the stock car is not as hard as you would think. It's getting time machine parts. That is what is virtually impossible, because it turns out that when they built the car for the film in 1984, they just went around Los Angeles to various surplus supply yards and picked pieces that looked good and put them on the car. And when Joe and his team went back to try to repair and restore and find replacement parts, it turns out that the parts they had used were vintage World War II and 1950s military aircraft parts.
Wow.
And they're parts that are virtually impossible to find. And if you can find them, they're wildly expensive. And the restoration team spent the better part of an entire year. The restoration took a year. And the team spent a lot of that time scouring the entire planet looking for just the right parts to put back on the car, because some parts are literally one of a kind on the time machine.
Wow. No, I mean, it looks like it. I mean, I'm so used to seeing a DeLorean with all the time circuits on it that when I see a stock DeLorean, it almost feels like it's naked. It's crazy how much that movie influenced the collective perception of a DeLorean car, right?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, even myself, every time, I've been around time machines a lot, but when I see a DeLorean drive down the street, that's still the first thing I think of. They go hand in hand.
Yeah. The particular DeLorean that you guys restored is called the A car, I believe. And it was one of how many cars that were used in the trilogy?
Well, in the first Back to the Future film, there were 3 cars.
Okay.
There was the A car, which was called the hero car. It was the car that was used for the vast majority of shots. The A car was the most detailed inside and out. It looked the best. It was all the beautiful shots, like the shot of the car pulling out of Doc Brown's truck, that's the A car.
Okay.
Then they built the B car, and the B car was built for stunt work. So when you see like the driving stunts and some of the crazier shots of the cars sliding around, that's the B car. Then they had a third car, which was the C car, which was a car that they had cut in half so they could get the camera inside, because the DeLorean is very tiny.
Okay.
So they built 3 for the first film, and then they built more for the sequel. So they built a fiberglass car that could pretend to fly, when they land the car in the back alley in part 2.
Yeah.
That was a lightweight fiberglass car. And then they built, I think, 3 more for Back to the Future Part 3. They built 2 off-road cars, and they built a special train car that popped a wheelie. So I think all told, there were 7 cars, but one of them was made out of fiberglass. So I'm not sure if you want to count that as a real DeLorean.
Gotcha. The hero car, the A car. I've been to Universal Studios over the years several times, and one of my favorite parts was going on the studio tour, and I would anxiously await to get to the car section of the tour, because obviously the DeLorean was parked there, and I was all about that car. And I remember I would go a couple of times a year, and it seemed like every year the car would just be in worse shape. Why did Universal let it get to the state that it was in?
Well, it was actually a lot of different reasons. There's not specifically just one thing to point at. First of all is that it was by 2010, the car was almost 30 years old. And any car, even if a car is well maintained, if it sits outside for that long, it's going to be in tough shape. So there was the weather. One of the factors were fans would actually sneak out there to take pieces off the car and take them home as souvenirs.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And that was actually a pretty big problem. Fans took a large number of pieces off the time machine. And
Frank, don't tell them.
That's something.
I'm hiding the flux capacitor I took the other day from that.
It's funny you mentioned that, because the flux capacitor is one of the parts that was taken.
Oh, wow. That I swear I didn't know about. I didn't do it. I swear.
No, and But what's great, though, is that and I talk about this, there's two versions of the film. There's a short version on Blu-ray, and then we just finished a long 60-minute version that'll come out in a few months. But in the long version, we talk about that because it turns out that when the restoration began, Bob Gale called on fans to say, hey, if you took something from the car, please bring it back. And a lot of fans returned pieces, including the original flux capacitor from the car.
Really?
Yep, a fan had returned it, and it was in great condition, and they were able to put it back in the car. So it was
that's so nice.
So yeah, and the fans who had taken stuff, they simply didn't want the stuff to be thrown out. They wanted it saved, and when they had a chance to bring it back, all these fans stepped up and cheered on the car and became a part of the process. So they actually, in some way, they helped save the car, and that's great.
That's really cool.
Yeah, but sorry, I got off track. But to answer your original question is why did the car get so bad? It was simply a combination of weather, of fans taking parts, and at the time, prop restoration was not a high priority for a lot of studios. I mean, nowadays, as soon as a movie is done, all these props, they're treated like royalty. They're carefully put away and they're carefully cataloged, but that wasn't the case even 20 years ago. For decades, when a movie was made, these props were literally just thrown in the trash afterwards because they weren't needed. And it was in the 80s when movie studios like Universal started to realize, hey, we have to keep these pieces. And one of the first props that was actually kept was the time machine.
Wow.
So, yeah, it was. So it's actually, it's easy to say, oh, the time machine looked rough. But you have to remember at the time, Universal saved that car because they knew fans wanted to see it. So it was there. They actually put a lot of thought in the fact that, we still have it, thank goodness. It's
funny because we were interviewing Houston Huddleston, who is the founder of the Hollywood Sci-Fi Museum, and we're talking about props, movie props, and just to piggyback on the point you just made, he was telling us how it was much easier for studios to literally throw away props. And one of the most heartbreaking things for me, besides the DeLorean, another childhood favorite of mine was the movie Flight of the Navigator. And I remember seeing on the internet a few years back that the ship was just in some back lot, just covered in dust, and you could tell the sun and the weather and the elements had taken its toll on it. And yeah, I mean, it's really, it hits you right in the childhood, as they say, when you see something like that was such an important part of your growing up. Just
and
unfortunate.
No one wants it.
Yeah, it's just kind of laying around. If it's okay with you, Steve, I want to play the trailer to the documentary because I want people to get an idea of what we're talking about here and just how big of an endeavor this was. Because let me tell you, it's no small feat. All those wires, all those components, all those meters and gauges and whatnot, to get all this stuff back on the original car, it's just a huge undertaking. So would it be cool if we let our friends watching on Ustream and, if people are catching the show on our website after the fact, we'll link to this trailer so people can check it out. So what do you say if we give it a listen?
Roll it.
Time was not kind to the time machine.
It had been sitting out in the rain for years, and all these pieces started to fall off the car.
Fans would go out there to get a collectible, a memento.
The flux capacitor and the time circuits were missing. The most essential parts of the time machine were just gone.
It made me feel sad. We were definitely at risk of losing the car forever.
I felt, no, something has to be done. I knew we had to find a way to save the time machine. There was just no question about it.
This was a full-on museum quality restoration.
This is something that's unprecedented in film history.
The original flux capacitor is the one.
It was almost unbelievable that something so old can come back from the dead. It's alive!
The amount of work that it took to restore this car was staggering.
The wires had to be exactly how the wires were. The colors of the wires had to be right.
I think the current restoration team is insane.
Oh my God. You guys are blowing me away with this.
The time circuits in the A car didn't work at all. It was all movie magic, and Joe wanted me to make it actually work.
So awesome.
Everyone was so excited because the DeLorean's becoming the time machine again. It's being resurrected.
Whoa, this hasn't looked this good since the movies.
Universal Studios trusted us with this icon. I hope we did them proud.
This was important to the studio. It's so important to the fans of the movie, and they gave it their all.
Like I told the guys, our pain is temporary, but the car will be perfect forever.
Wow.
That was fun.
I mean, that's some heavy duty stuff. Steve, there was something, very key there that I picked up on, and that is that the time circuits, the idea was to get them all to work, and I know that the build team had to put a computer there that made everything work like the movie, because apparently it didn't work that way for the film. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's absolutely correct. In the movie, it was all controlled. The sound effects were all added later. That was movie magic, and the time circuits didn't function at all like you imagine they would. And so when Joe, had the opportunity to restore the car, he said, "Okay, we're gonna make these things work just like they should have in the movie if the car was real." So he hired a team of expert computer programmers. In fact, Ara, one of the guys who's in the movie talking about the time circuits, he actually works for NASA. He's like an actual rocket scientist. Yeah. So Ara and his team built a computer system from scratch to control all of the computer systems in the car. So if you get in the car and you turn on the time circuits, all the sounds fire up at exactly the right time. You can punch in any flux capacitor works. Like everything works in the car the way it would have if it were real in the movie. So it actually works better than the A car actually did for real.
And how fast does it get up to 88 miles an hour?
I can't speak to the A car, but DeLoreans in general, if you love a DeLorean, you don't love it because it drives great.
Right.
You love it because it's a DeLorean. Yeah,
of course.
I mean, from my experience, they're a little challenging to drive as cars. They're tough to get up to speed, but I know a lot of people who have really nice ones that are fast and good looking. So
nice.
It runs the gamut. But yeah,
I'm not a very tall guy, but I know that John DeLorean stood, at a very tall 6'4", and he designed this car mainly for, so that he could fit comfortably. You say you have experience driving the car. Is it awkward driving a DeLorean? Is the wheel too high or too low, or the seat too far back? How, I've never driven one, believe me. I'm an aspiring DeLorean owner someday. What's the experience driving a DeLorean?
See, I'm not a real car guy, which is funny because I made a documentary about the time machine. To me, in my experience, DeLoreans they're like driving in a bucket. You're really low to the ground,
right? And
it's hard to see out of all the windows. But what's funny though is that driving a DeLorean, a stock DeLorean, is challenging because it's a sports car and you don't have the best vision. But driving a time machine version of a car is essentially suicide, I would say.
Really?
Because, for several reasons. First, when you're driving a time machine, you have no back window because that's where the flux capacitor is, and so you literally do not have a back window. Then you have all this stuff on the dash, so you have trouble seeing out the front. But the worst part is when you're driving down the road, fans are constantly almost running you off the road trying to take photos of you.
Oh, wow.
So if you drive a time machine, it's a parade wherever you go.
I bet.
People veering into your lane, snapping photos on their iPhone. It's craziness.
Oh, gosh.
But very, very challenging to drive a time machine out in public. I don't recommend it.
I'm guilty of that.
I'll keep mine locked up then.
No, but I'm guilty of that. There's been a few times where, you're driving and you see somebody with one of these replicas, and you can't help but just stare and wonder in awe at this particular car. Can you tell me a little bit about the team that it took to bring this car back to life? How many people made up the team, and how fast did they work to get it done?
Well, like I said, the team was headed by a man named Joe Walser, and Joe spearheaded the team, and he is the one who basically handpicked all the team members to work on the project. And Joe put together a team of what he considered the absolute best time machine builders in the world.
Wow.
Yeah, and actually, they became the official time machine restoration team. That's what they're called. And I would say there were probably about 24 people who worked on the car. I mean, many, many more contributed and helped, but there were a core group of about 24 guys who actually worked on the car often, and the restoration took almost exactly 1 year.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I mean, that's like, you would think that a restoration, you know, a lot of people think, oh, you just slap some paint on it and slap some wires on it. It takes a couple months, but no, not this team. They fussed over every millimeter, every color, every little bit of that car was fussed over by a team of experts to make sure that it was exactly like it was in the movie. And so, yeah, Joe and the team, I mean, the amount of love and work and dedication they put into this car was insane.
Yeah, I was reading that it was a museum level or museum quality restoration.
Oh, absolutely.
Can you tell us just a bit about that? For example, what are some of the challenges that the team encountered working on this car?
Sure. I mean, the short answer is that every single thing was a challenge because you're working on what I consider the most famous movie car ever. You know, it's a car worth millions of dollars, and so, you know, you're not building a replica, you're restoring it. And a lot of the challenge was taking the pieces off the car and instead of replacing them with new pieces, trying to restore what was there. Because what was so important is trying to keep as much of the originality of the actual car that was there. And that's a challenge. I think, personally, one of the most interesting things and the biggest challenge was getting all the pieces that were on the car back on the car. And what I mean by that is after the film's all wrapped, you had 7 cars, right? Well, it turns out that back at Universal Studios, all these parts would fall off one car and get swapped on another car, and they would end up on this car, and they would swap to that car. And it became a big, huge mess as to, you know, all these cars and all these pieces, nobody was sure what belonged where. And so Joe and the team had to go through and track down, okay, no, this piece, they'd go frame by frame, and they spent weeks at the Universal Archives, and they looked through tens of thousands of photos from the production to say, oh, no, in this one photo you can see this little piece here, that must be the B car, and no, this one, it belongs to the A car because the way it's scratched right here. And to try to get all the pieces back onto the A car correctly, you know, back on its home, it was just, again, you when you sit there and you watch this team work, you're just like, you guys are the most insane people in the universe. Like, nobody's going to notice. Nobody's going to notice any of this stuff, Joe. And he's just like, I would notice. Wow.
Wow. As you just mentioned, you know, just about every aspect of this rebuild was challenging, but one of the first things that popped into my head was, we're talking about a car that out the gate did not come with a paint job. So there was no way to hide any imperfections or anything like that. We're talking about stainless steel body. How hard was it to get the body panels back to their original shiny silver glory?
Yeah, that was a challenge because, yeah, as you said, you can't hide it with paint. It's not a normal car. And Joe said very early on that they could have easily just replaced them all and not told anybody.
Right.
But that was not going to fly with Joe. Joe said, no. These are the real ones. These are the panels that were on the car, and these are the panels going back on the car. So Joe and the restoration team polished and filled holes and sanded and, you know, did everything they could to bang those panels back into shape because, you know, it was important. And again, it just goes to show, like, to put new panels on the car would have taken a couple days, but the way they did it by fixing all this stuff and putting the originals back on there took weeks and months, you know, because it mattered to everybody on the team because they knew that's what go back on there. And, you know, Joe was there filling holes and fixing those panels. And yeah, it was because it was important to them. I make the team sound like they're kind of crazy and they're kind of insane. And that's 100% true because they were.
You have to be a little bit, right?
No, you have to be a lot to be on this team because these guys would go up there and they would work on the car. Like, what people don't realize is many of the people on the team had full-time jobs on top of the
wow.
They had day jobs.
Wow.
So these guys would go to their day jobs and then after work at 6 p.m., drive out to the car, work all night long Friday, work all day Saturday, work all day Sunday, and then drive straight into work Monday morning and go back to their office job.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, it was a level of dedication I have never seen anybody else ever do. And yeah, I mean, they were just a little crazy. They're completely crazy.
I was reading on the website, OutattimeMovie.com, which is the website for the documentary. The last question in the frequently asked questions section, it's was making the movie a dream come true? And you said that for you, yeah, for your wife, not so much. Talking about dedication, well, how much of your time and how involved were you filming and getting the footage for this documentary?
I think it's only fair to say that all of our wives, we had time machine widows. Like our wives, my wife, Marcy, Joe's wife, Cindy, all the other wives were extremely supportive and patient because a lot of us, it's funny, I think 3 of the guys wives had children, had babies during the restoration.
Oh, wow.
And they were away working on the car. It was tough, but, the wives were extremely supportive, but oh
my goodness. Congratulations.
Yeah. Exactly. I was one of the guys who had a little one at the time.
Oh, really?
Very tough.
Oh, well, congrats.
Yeah, but I won't go too much into that. I don't want to, don't want to bring up any bad, any tough emotions.
But hey, look at it this way: your kid will think you're the coolest. He'll think you're the coolest dad because you got to work on this project. Go ahead. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut in there.
No, I was just going to say, like, I was as involved as I could be. I actually, when Joe mentioned that he was doing the restoration, I said, I have to help out. I have to be a part of this. And he said, well, can you fix a car? I said, no, I don't know anything about cars. He said, well, okay, well, can you make movie props? I said, nope, I'm terrible at that. And he just kind of looks at me and he goes, what can you do? And I said, well, I can make a movie about it. I'm really good at that. And he said, okay, that's your job.
Nice.
So
that's cool.
My job became documenting the restoration, and I was there as much as I could be. I was there every weekend, both days for an entire year, shooting footage, if not more. So I was one of the team members. I mean, I shot everything. I think, was it like 40 or 50 or 60 hours of footage?
Oh, wow.
And because I wanted to get this on camera, because when we did this back in 2012, I knew that this was a story that I thought fans would want to see. Like, hey, this is fascinating. It's once in a lifetime opportunity. And I just happened to be in the right place as a fan to say, hey, I would really like to see this story told. So I just grabbed my camera and I started shooting. And then, 3 years later, Universal Studios saw it and they're like, yeah, we want this for the Blu-ray. And, it was born out of simply the love of me wanting to, thinking it was interesting and wanting to let people know about this cool restoration story and just how amazing the restoration team is that did it. And it looks like I was right, hopefully.
Well, I was going to say, I mean, it's been immortalized, obviously, in the 30th anniversary edition of the movie. As far as the car goes, to me, the car is another protagonist in these movies. In the documentary, what do you want people to take away from it? Do you want them to see the car as one key character, and let's face it, without this, iconic car and this genius idea of making a car into a time machine and not just, some room somewhere. What do you want people to walk away with from watching the documentary?
See, that's a great question. I've never been asked it before. I think what I want people to realize is I think everybody who is a Back to the Future fan knows how much the car means to them. Like you said, it's an iconic car. I can still remember when I was 10 sitting in that theater and I saw the car for the first time. I still remember like it was yesterday.
Yeah.
And it had an impression on all of us. And what I want people to take away from the film is seeing the car's complete story. I tried to tell the story that fans don't know about, when the camera stopped rolling, what happened to the actual car. Like, the real life story of the car is almost more fascinating than the movie version of the car. What journeys did the car take? What challenges did it face? What happened to it? And then, most importantly, the story of the team that brought it back to life. Why did they do it? How did they do it?
Right.
And how can we make sure that these props never fall into disarray again?
And speaking of, where is the car now?
I'm not entirely sure. And I say that because the car was at Universal Studios, and I think it is in the process of being relocated to another permanent home in Los Angeles.
Oh, wow.
I'm not, All I know is I don't know where, I don't know when, but I have been assured that the car will be on display indoors, and it will be well taken care of. But in terms of when or where it'll be unveiled, I guess we'll all have to just wait and see, because I'm not even sure.
Well, hopefully, yeah. I mean, after all this work, I'm sure that the necessary measures are going to be taken to make sure that it's preserved in its newly pristine condition, because it looks great. I mean, I saw some of the pictures you sent over. I know that also on the Facebook page for the build, which I believe if people are interested, we'll be posting this link as well. But if people are interested, they can head over to facebook.com/Time Machine Restoration altogether.
Yep.
And you can look at the pictures there. And I mean, it looks amazing. It's scary and sad to see the condition that it was originally in. And you look at it now and it looks like, it's ready, for its close-up once again.
Yeah, it is actually. I mean, Bob Gale himself, when he saw the car, for the first time, he said it looks better than it did when they were shooting out at the mall, in 1984. The car looked better than it did, and that's a testament to Joe and the team. But it's exciting and it's fantastic.
Nice. As you mentioned, the version of the documentary that's on the 30th anniversary edition of Back to the Future is 20 minutes long, and you have made the longer 50-minute documentary. Where can people watch this, or when is it going to be available for people to enjoy?
Actually, I made it even longer. It's a full 60-minute documentary.
Oh, very cool.
And the long version, I guess we can call it the director's cut, but it's a 60-minute version with even more bonus footage, audio commentary. It's got, with bonus features and all that great stuff. That will be available soon. I'm hoping within the next 2 months or so. We don't have an exact release date yet, but we're working on it, and we're getting close. But it'll be available. Hopefully, not even hopefully, it'll be available definitely within the next few months.
Before we let you go, Steve, why don't you tell people where they can find more information on the documentary, and what if they want to grab, like a T-shirt or a poster? Is there anything like that? Where can they get it?
Absolutely. If you have purchased the Back to the Future 30th Anniversary Blu-ray and you saw our little featurette on there and you want to see more, this is, you are in luck, because our longer version of the documentary with more detail and more stuff, you can go to our website. It's Outatime Movie, Outatime, just like the license plate, OUTATIME, OutaTimeMovie.com, and we have links. We have a store where you can pre-order Blu-rays and digital downloads. We've got some great movie posters that are very reminiscent of Back to the Future style, and actually we have one poster on there that's a photo I took the night the car was finished, and in fact, it's a photo of the car that Universal Studios liked so much that they used it in the Lego booklet for the Time Machine.
Oh, wow.
When they released the Lego Time Machine. Yeah, it was a photo I took, and Universal said, God, we love it so much, we want that for the Lego booklet. And I said, are you kidding me? Legos and Time Machine, my two favorite things ever, and you want to use my photo?
Nice.
Yeah. So we even have those available, and it's all available right now for people to go to.
That's really cool. So definitely for all the Back to the Future fans, check that out.
And I believe there's a bunch of flux capacitors fans out there also waiting for a cool track that they might be able to rally up for the documentary. They've been hoping to compose a bit of a tune for the documentary. Steve, the flux capacitors say hi.
Absolutely, I know the flux capacitors very well.
Nice.
Back to the Future is a very small family, and you tend to know everybody. And yes, I know them very well.
Yeah.
And I've been talking with them, and hopefully we can make magic happen. So you have to stay tuned and see what happens in the future.
Definitely. We look forward to that.
A lot of exciting stuff. Definitely, people check it out. Outatime Movie is the website. As Steve mentioned, it's spelled like the license plate, OUTATIME. movie.com, and check out the Facebook page if you want to see some cool pictures of the restoration process right there on Facebook, facebook.com/Time Machine Restoration. And definitely check out the the documentary once it's out there and people can watch it. I highly recommend it. I mean, if you're a Back to the Future fan, if you love DeLoreans, if you love everything about the movie,
honestly,
definitely check it out.
I don't think you need to say if you love it, because like it's one of those things that's like entertaining just to watch, you know?
Yeah, actually, Steve, before I let you go,
it's
because
just fun.
this is something that I heard somebody say, and I had to agree, and that's that Back to the Future is like the perfect movie. You can't talk about that movie and say, oh, I wish they would have done this, or oh, they should have done that. It was just perfect. Are those your thoughts as well?
Oh, that goes without saying. I mean, to make a movie about a movie is a lot of work and a lot of dedication. And so, yeah, I love every frame of that film. I love the story. I love the characters. I love the car. I'm in love with that movie. And believe I've been making a movie about the movie for several years, so I had sure as hell better love the movie. But I know I speak for myself. I know I speak for Joe Walser. I know I speak for the restoration team that, like, yeah, the movie was, and always will be a huge part of our lives, you know. And so it's strange to be a fan and yet to have an official involvement in Back to the Future is extremely surreal. Like just like you, I grew up as a kid in the Midwest. I grew up as far away from Hollywood as you can get, and now to be here associated with the Time Machine, you know, all of us on the restoration team are just kind of scratching our heads because it's unbelievable that we get to be a part of this incredible magic franchise in some way.
Oh, believe me, I envy you in a good way, Steve. I really do.
Would you say that it's one of your favorite movies ever? Are you a sci-fi fan in general?
Oh, I am. I'm definitely a sci-fi fan. I mean, boy, I grew up right in the sweet spot of the 80s. So between Back to the Future, between Ghostbusters, I happen to be one of the very few fans of Explorers. I know Joe Walter shares a love of that movie with me. See, you guys didn't even react when they said Explorers.
Yeah, I just gave Genevieve a look like, what? Sorry, I failed that one. I failed that one, Steve. I'm sorry.
No, oh man, shame on you.
I know.
Explorers is one of the most underrated little sci-fi movies ever. River Phoenix, Ethan Hawke. I think it came out in 1984. They built a spaceship out of a tilt-a-whirl. Oh,
wow.
Anyway,
well, I gotta watch that.
In that case, we have a little thing that we do. Would you be able to maybe give us your top 5 sci-fi movies that we could put up on our website? We would love to do that.
You're
on the spot. On the spot.
Do it right now, or can I email them to you?
Email's good.
Yeah, email is good. Email is good.
Because we would love to put them on the website. It's a thing we do, and we like to give people, you know, I always feel that top 5 movies are a good way to gauge a person. You know,
no pressure, Steve. No pressure, Steve.
When someone,
but you said top
it's true.
5 sci-fi movies.
Sci-fi, yeah. Sci-fi. Well, but you know what I mean.
I can pretty much tell you, Back to the Future is number 1. Would you count Ghostbusters as sci-fi? I mean,
I would.
Yeah,
I would.
Yeah.
Science fiction technology in it. Okay.
Definitely.
Yeah, it's Back to the Future, Ghostbusters, Aliens, and then I got to figure out the next 2.
Okay.
So.
Okay.
Yeah, no, we should have given you a little bit more of a heads up, but we were reminded by the what was the movie you just mentioned, Explorers?
Yeah.
Yeah, see, that's what reminded me that you were one of the people that we should have asked that question. But yeah, believe me, we'll send you an email just to remind you, just in case, because we love to hear people's, you know, top 5 lists, especially when they're, you know, involved in the world of film and cinema. Obviously, you know, you interact closer with some of these productions. And like I said, it's always interesting to get people's take on, you know, their top 5. It's always good. So
no,
I could
I'm
never
happy
choose.
to do it.
Very cool. Steve, thank you so much for granting us this interview. We, as you can tell, we love talking all things Back to the Future, DeLoreans, and the likes. And hopefully we can find out where the DeLorean will be calling home, so that people can check it out, including myself. I'm yet to see this newly restored, piece of movie history.
Well, whenever the car goes on display, I guarantee I will be there. The restoration team will be there, and it will be a celebration to behold.
Awesome.
That'd be amazing.
Thank you so much, Steve. And, we really appreciate you taking the time to talk to us tonight.
Hey, thank you. And like I said, it was worth it to tell the story of what the restoration team did, because it was incredible.
Absolutely.
They deserve all the credit and all the glory, because the car is beautiful because of them. I just made a movie about it. They're the heroes of the story.
Well, I think there is a place in that pavilion for you, sir, because without you, we wouldn't see what happens. So thank you for taking on that role and doing such a great job at it.
Well, thank you. You are most welcome.
Have a great night, Steve.
Good night, Steve.
Will do, guys. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
And that was Steve Concotelli.
That's such a fun name to say.
No, that's a really cool Italian-sounding name. Steve Concotelli, who was the producer of this documentary, Outatime, Saving the DeLorean. Check it out. Visit the website, OutattimeMovie.com. We'll be posting all this on our website once the show is done, and we have it up there for everyone in case you missed any part of it. Again, amazing interview. It's a lot of fun. We're going to take a quick break here, and when we come back, we're going to come back with some more news. But you know what? We're talking all this Back to the Future stuff, and obviously Back to the Future Part 1, one of the most iconic things on top of the car and the characters was the music. If I can geek out for a minute, when I first started playing guitar, my first guitar hero was Marty McFly from Back to the Future. And after years of bugging my parents for an electric guitar, I got an electric guitar. And I remember there was something about that guitar that looked familiar, and it turned out to be a very similar model as the one that Marty McFly plays in the gym at the beginning of the movie.
Yeah, whatever. You just bought it because he had it.
No, I swear I didn't know. But it was for the guitar players out there, that's an Ibanez Roadstar Series 2, if I'm not mistaken. He had the one with the rosewood fretboard. I actually had the one with the maple fretboard. But it was still cool because it was still mostly black. Like I said, one of my favorite parts of that movie was also the music. So why don't we take it back to the Enchantment Under the Sea dance. And let's play some Marvin Berry, Chuck Berry's cousin in the movie. And this one's called Night Train. Enjoy. West of the Rockies is coming back for the second hour. Don't go away. Here we go.
West of the Rockies with Frank.
What's up, guys? This is Jorge Diaz of Paranormal Activity, The Marked Ones, and you're listening to West of the Rockies with Frank. This portion of the show is sponsored by Haunted Orange County, your premier source for all things haunted in and around OC. From haunted history ghost walks to ghost group hunting expeditions at some of SoCal's most haunted destinations. Make your fall plans early and book an upcoming tour or investigation today. Visit HauntedOC.com.
Open your mind.
And we are back to the second hour West of the Rockies. I'm Frank. Thank you guys for sticking around. I know it's late, but we're having a great time tonight. Genevieve, how you doing over there?
I'm fine, thanks. How are you?
I'm doing great. No, I want to thank again, huge thanks really to Steve Concotelli, executive producer of the Outatime, Saving the DeLorean Time Machine, the documentary where they chronicle the restoration process of the original DeLorean A car. We were just talking about all the crazy things that went into making this documentary and documenting the build. So definitely check it out. Again, the website is OutattimeMovie.com. Outatime, like the license plate, OUTATIME, movie.com, and check out their Facebook as well to get a look at some of the pictures of this amazing project. Facebook.com/Time Machine Restoration, all in one word. And as you heard during the break, this is a segment brought to you by Haunted OC. And tonight, as a special treat, we have Mr. Haunted Orange County himself, Ernie Alonso, on the line. Ernie, can you hear us okay?
I can hear you. I just love that commercial spot you just played. How are you guys doing?
We're doing great, Ernie. Now, for the people that don't know, you're actually driving right now.
I'm here with a world-famous UFO conference speaker and star of the new Smithsonian show that debuted tonight.
Yes.
At 8 p.m., Mr. Ben Hansen.
Is Mr. Ben Hansen in the house?
Yes. We are in the remote wilderness of Arizona, so we might lose you here in a bit.
Oh, goodness me.
We're gonna try to make sure that to cram everything in before that happens.
What she said.
awful. Now, I saw some pictures that you guys were posting. It snowed in Snowflake. I'm guessing that's where Snowflake got the name. But it looks like you guys got a bit of snow out there.
Yeah, there was actually a little bit of a blizzard on our way over here. Ben was driving as we got up to the lodge, and then we woke up in the morning, and it was pretty much blanketed in snow.
Wow.
Yeah, understatement, blizzard. Ernie, you were sleeping while I was driving.
No, Ben about 10, he loves to exaggerate.
I was going 20 miles an hour.
We were going about 45 miles an hour, and it was a blizzard.
I can see that this was a very, very fun road trip for the both of you. Once you got out there, obviously, we've heard a lot about this case. We've discussed it on the show. We've talked to Travis about it. One of the most interesting, perplexing mysteries, really, of our time. What was it like going out there and being in the spot? First of all, did you guys go to the exact spot where the event happened? Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah, actually, it was my first time going. Ben has been there several times before. I'm working on a documentary for Travis. And me being my first time there, it was a little different than what I had expected. Ben pointed out that the actual movie was filmed in Oregon, right?
Yeah, most of it was filmed there because the director felt it wasn't spooky enough. The trees weren't thick and tall enough. And so there's been a big fire that went through there in 2002, so it's kind of thinned out a bit. But you do not, I don't know many people who want to be there in the dark by themselves.
Really?
Yeah, it was a little creepy. And it actually started getting dark while we were up there, and it was actually on the actual anniversary of the incident, just about to the hour, right?
Yeah, we were there exactly 40 years to the day.
Wow.
To the hour. It happened a little bit after 6 o'clock, so the sun had gone down. You can imagine the crew and what it would have been like for them. And we're standing what we've been able to approximate within about 50 feet of where it actually occurred.
Oh, wow.
So it's really cool. And what was awesome about this conference as well is that we had assembled so many of the original crew members, both in the documentary. There were 7 people. So we had Travis, of course. This is the first time I met Mike Rogers, who was the crew boss. We also had the deputy, John Goulette. We had the first deputy who was on the scene.
Wow.
The kind of older guys now, but it was amazing to hear them retell the story from their point of view. And when these guys went and took the polygraphs and to have them all assembled, and now to be like, yeah, we believe Travis, we believe the story. They were kids at the time.
Yeah, of course. You guys were there interacting with Travis. How did Travis feel about visiting this site 40 years after? Not to sound crass or anything, but is he kind of like over it, or does it still affect him to this day when he visits that site in particular?
I actually did a really quick interview with him today, and that was one of the questions I asked him. And he said that time has passed so quickly that he feels like it happened recently. And then I also asked him how it felt to be around the guys that, like Ben was mentioning, some of the crew members that were with him that night, and why he decided he really wanted to commemorate it. He felt that, I guess 2 had already passed away, and it was a life-changing, event, obviously. He felt it was important to commemorate it, especially if we're not getting any younger. He wanted, to do it, especially on the 40th. And I'm not going to say that I was 100% convinced when I first met Travis a couple of years about the story, but after listening to all the testimony and the people going up there and speaking, and just even the documentary that Ben was a part of that we watched last night, there was a banquet, and they screened the newest cut of it. There's no doubt in my mind that these men are telling the truth. And so it was an amazing week. We actually even got to stay in the same cabin as Travis, so that was really cool.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
While you guys were out there, was there, Ben, I know you do a lot of sky watches, etc. Did you guys do anything like that out there? And was anything seen? Did you guys see that missile test that apparently happened out here and we're seeing all over the place?
Well, last year we did a Skywatch on the actual site. We didn't do a day tour. So this year we did no Skywatch on the site, but we did the first public day tour. We did a Skywatch about 13 miles away down near Heber. And a lot of our people actually saw that missile test. They came back and they're frantic. Oh my gosh, you got to get your night vision. Come look at this thing. And I missed it, but it was seen from California clear up to here.
Right.
So it was kind of funny that all happened while we were, just after we packed up the Skywatch. Well, it was actually the next day. But at any rate, we did capture something that I'll be posting on my website at benhansen.com and at Night Vision Ops. And I think it's going to turn out to be what we call a geostationary satellite. Because I want to show people what it looks like, but it's kind of eerie because it's a satellite-like object, but it's pulsating.
Oh, wow.
And it's in pretty far out there, about 22,000 miles is where the geostationary satellites are, but it's glowing like about every 60 seconds. It gets really, really bright and then dims out. And I think that's what it's going to end up being. I have to do a couple, measurements on the screen and see if it's actually moving or not. But it's quite impressive, to see this on night vision, have everyone there and see it.
Yeah, no, that is really cool. And Ben, I know you do a lot of work with night vision equipment for the purposes of searching the skies for UFOs. Do you find it to be an advantage, not necessarily at night, but, I've heard a lot of people talk about UFOs that move in different light spectrums and things like that. Is that the reason why you've been experimenting with night vision?
Yeah, exactly. There are a lot of people who use it who have been able to film triangles, for example. It does see a little bit deeper into other spectrums. The night vision can only be used at night, but we also have been experimenting with thermal cameras, which the paranormal ghost hunting and cryptid Bigfoot hunters are more familiar with.
Right.
It's not very much at night in Skywatches because they're like, well, we're looking for things we can see, not heat signatures, but I have filmed triangles I could not see with my own eye that only showed up with thermal camera.
Wow. Oh, that's interesting. I know it's kind of short notice, but what do you guys make of a lot of people are doing the old back and forth on whether it was a UFO or a missile, what a lot of people saw out here off the coast of California. I know you guys were busy out there, but have you had a chance to look over some of the news and do you guys have thoughts on what that was?
I have. I've taken a look at a lot of the photos and video, including some that our attendees captured, and I think it is very typical of the missile launches, including, we started seeing this stuff way back kind of like in Norway, but that was like a spiral. We've seen these other missile launches quite frequently in the past couple of years where it's sort of like a cone that comes off the back, it's bluish or greenish. The only thing that baffles me is I believe some of our attendees, you see, if it launched in California, it would have been coming east towards us here in Arizona. And it's more or less going to look like a circle, a complete circle, because the plume will be behind it. But some of the videos and what the people described was it looked like it was heading out west. So unless the missile came over and then went back the other way, I don't really know why they would be getting that perspective from it. So that was a little weird.
Honestly, that's a very interesting observation. Yeah, I hadn't thought about that. I know that the Navy is saying that it was just, a test and, they do these routinely to make sure that all the equipment is working properly. And the reason why it was kept secret is so that China and Russia wouldn't know about it. And apparently only LAX got a notification of it. This goes to Ben real quick. Is that standard protocol or, should they give a heads up to people that, hey, we're going to be launching a test missile, FYI, #LOL. Is that something that happens? Should we get like advance notice, or do you think that keeping it secret is definitely in the best interest?
Well, that is something I honestly don't know quite that much about. I know that I get alerts for Vandenberg Air Force Base. I'm a part of an emailing list. Just Skywatchers in general, they'll publish those, and they'll say, okay, we're going to launch this and that. From what I'm reading, in this case, they said it was classified. They couldn't talk about when the launch would occur, but obviously, once it's up in the air, it's not classified that it took off. What I think is, I hope, we're putting our faith in them. If they're launching these things, eventually, what goes up must come down, right? Or they've got to push the button to disintegrate it. And if it's coming clear out here over Arizona, I'm sure they've got it figured out to where when it disintegrates, it's going to take place over a testing range, hopefully. Because no matter how rural the area, those pieces have to come down somewhere. So typically, I think that's why they do them over the ocean.
Right.
And, not over land. So I'd be interested to know where it actually detonated.
You know, I've been wondering about the radioactivity that's may have been going on in the area because of the tree growth.
Oh, we're going. Yeah. Speaking of the. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I wanted to go back to that.
Yeah. Sorry, I kind of went, the whole missile route. Go ahead.
I wanted to...
I've digressed.
When you were there, were there any more developments on discoveries in terms of the area around where the incidents took place?
Well, yeah, I could kind of fill people in who haven't heard about this. It was discovered shortly after, 15 years after Mike Rogers, the crew boss, had gone out there and taken core samples of these trees. And what he found was that some of the trees directly around the clearing had increased in volume and size about 36 times faster than the trees that were further out from the area. So what we discovered in just the past year as we were looking at these sampled trees was that not only had the ones around the clearing grown quicker, but there was a directionality to it. So, for example, the trees on the southern boundary, the rings are thicker, and the center of the tree is off-centered in that if you were to look at a cross-section, it looks like it's being pulled, sort of like drawn outwards in sort of an oblong towards what you would maybe call the epicenter of where the craft was hovering. And so if you go to the north, then you'll see increased growth on the south side of the tree. If you go to the west, you'll see increased growth on the eastern side of the tree. So very, very strange. And Travis was the one who proposed that possibly it was radiation. I think it's a good theory, but we may have gotten as far as we can get with that. I did find research through Chernobyl, studies that were done, that found the pine trees there had grown 3 times quicker than the surrounding trees. You'd think radiation would have the opposite effect and would kill the tree cells, and it does. But what they found was the cells grow a lot quicker, and the cells that are dying are replaced by the new cells at such a rate that it continues to grow. So we don't know. We honestly don't know if that is what had caused it. The other theory is that perhaps whoever they are, that they have come in the craft to conduct sort of like their own experiment and sort of like had a garden, per se, of these trees, and we're trying to make them grow, and they were just coming back to check up on them. So maybe it had nothing to do with the presence of the craft.
That's a really interesting thing you just said, because it was kind of goes with the question I had lined up. One of the things I've always wondered is what's in that area of Snowflake. Can you guys think of any reason why a UFO would be, kind of stationed, if I can use the term, there in the forest? That was going to be my question. So it's interesting that you point out, Ben, that you think that they might have been, taking just information of tree growth or something. Is that what you guys think the reason why a UFO would be there?
That is the big question. That's the big question. That's why we've been out there today. We actually took some fresh soil samples. One of the researchers, Phyllis, last name escapes me at the moment, but she's been doing a lot of this trace evidence collection. We're looking for magnetized particles. We're looking at anomalies in the soil, and we don't know. We really don't know if there's anything different about this area, but there are researchers who look for parallels in UFO landing sites and just like that.
I think we're getting a bit of interference there from being
aliens
driving on the road. No, it's quite all right. Yeah, we can hear you now. Fine. If you could just repeat that the last part.
Okay, yeah, we're going through a little map here, so my idea. What we're looking for is.
Okay, I think it's breaking up.
Yeah, I think they're going through a dead zone, but actually, I don't want to keep them on the line too long because I know that they're driving and I know it's nighttime, so it's a bit dangerous. We'll let them go for now because you don't want to risk their safety, but that's
the thing is with my personal interest in the tree growth. I found it fascinating to hear about the fact that that the trees grew differently after apparently this event took place. They started growing faster. They were basically growing better, 3 times the rate. And it made absolute sense to me. And first thought, some people tend to think, oh, well, why weren't the trees destroyed? But think about it. What does radiation do? It causes cancer. What is cancer? Cancer is continuous, uncontrolled growth of an organic cell. Yeah. The cells in the trees, the organic matter is growing uncontrollably, or at least very fast. It's growing faster than it's meant to, and that's what radiation does. That's what radioactivity does. It changes the programming of the cell growth. So that it starts going weird, basically. And that, it makes sense. Things grow faster when you subject them to radiation. Certain types, not destructive types of radiation, but the types that basically destroy the growth cycle, the programming, and just make it, continuously grow. I remember it was at last year's Contact in the Desert where we got a chance to meet Travis and we sat in one of his lectures, and that's when he revealed this finding of the tree growth. And I remember thinking, like, I was floored because as if we needed more evidence to back up what he has said for the last 40 years, that now there's this, recent finding. It's really incredible. So I want to thank Ben Hansen and Ernie Alonso for talking to us tonight. As I said, we lost connection there for a bit, but we want them to get home safe so they can be on this show again in the future. Definitely check out the upcoming documentary, a newly recut documentary about Travis Walton. And shout out to Travis as well. If you want to find out more about his experience and more about the documentary, we have an interview posted on our website, WoTRradio.com, where we talk to Travis. We go back to that event and we discuss what it was like filming this documentary. And as you just heard from Ben and Ernie, this weekend marked the 40th anniversary that this life-changing event. Also, don't forget to check out Ben Hansen hosting the premiere episode of UFOs Declassified on the Smithsonian Channel. It premiered tonight at 8 p.m. So if you have, I don't know, what do kids use nowadays? VCRs? Do they still use those? Of course.
Yeah.
Sure.
I'm sure people TiVo'd it. Do people still TiVo, or is it called something else now?
What?
Oh, I guess you guys in England didn't have TiVo. TiVo, you could record shows and stuff.
Wow.
I guess now it's
I don't know what language.
I think now it's like DVR. All right. Sorry, folks. The reason why I don't have the 30th anniversary of Back to the Future in Blu-ray is because I don't have a Blu-ray player. That's how out of touch I am. Anyways, don't forget to check that out. UFOs Declassified on the Smithsonian Channel, hosted by our good pal, Ben Hansen. And of course, shout out to Ernie Alonso of Haunted Orange County. Check out hauntedOC.com for a lot of cool stuff. Halloween just passed, but believe me, they always have some really cool events, tours, investigations, and a whole lot more. Speaking of investigations, they had a cool investigation happening during Kamikaze weekend.
Defo.
On the eve of Halloween. How apt is
All
that?
Hallows Eve.
That is right.
You can't say on the eve of Halloween.
Yeah, because that's like a double. Yeah, it's like a double thing. Yeah, I kind of caught myself a little late. I was hoping nobody would notice, but thank you for bringing it to everyone's attention.
You're welcome.
It was a cool investigation, and we were there because we were covering all the craziness that is Kamikaze, right? Kamikaze is pretty wild, I must say. Every year I'm there, I'm blown away by the people, the costumes, the art, the artists, and this year was particularly special. We got to sit in a very intimate press junket with the man himself, Mr. Stanley, and that was
super fun.
It was great to see him and see that at 90 something years old, he still has more energy than me.
Oh, he's so fun. He's so funny,
he's a great guy.
Fun and energetic.
He's just a big kid.
He's always cracking those jokes. Seriously.
Yeah.
Check out our post. We got some really great candid shots of him.
Yeah, definitely check it out. That's WoTRradio.com. We'll be doing a full-on Kamikaze pose with all our pictures and how we survived that weekend. Because believe me, it's a lot of work. One of the cool people that we got to meet at Kamikaze
you're gonna
this
love
year.
this. You know who I know will love this? Uncle Creepy.
I think Professor Madness might also dig this.
No, Professor Madness already digs this. He's watched it already.
Oh, he watched it already. Okay, well,
Yeah.
for those of you that haven't gotten around to it, tisk, you can go to WoTRradio.com and see it. No, I'm kidding. We're going to play it right here. We got to interview R.S. Corpsey Ryan.
I'll just call him Corpsey.
Corpsey for short.
Don't be so
I think
official.
we're in that level of friendship. So Corpsey of the magazine Girls and Corpses, a really interesting magazine. We got to chat with him, find out what the magazine's all about and how he came up with it. And we're gonna play that interview for you guys right here, right now. So sit back, enjoy, and if you're on Ustream, you might enjoy watching that little lady he's got next to him. Miss Sarah Hedgren. Quite a foxy lady. Hedgren. Oh, sorry, I'm not wherever.
Goodness,
yeah.
You're not Swedish.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not Swedish.
Goodness me.
So enjoy this one. We'll catch you on the other side. Pretty fun interview with Corpsey of Girls and Corpses magazine.
Hi, we're here at the Kamikaze Expo 2015, and we are here at the Girls and Corpses booth. I'd like to ask, first of all, who are you and what do you do, I guess?
You looked a little terrified when you said Girls and Corpses, and most people are. We're an actual magazine. We're on newsstands worldwide. It's a comedy horror magazine. You can see here, this is our Corpse College issue, and this is our medical marijuana issue, and this is our pandemic issue. And this is Sarah, one of our beautiful models who works with the magazine. So we combine kind of horror and comedy and girls, and it's been fantastic. We're the fastest growing genre magazine in the world right now.
So how did you come up with this idea, and how long has it been around?
Well, we've been around 15 years. We started online, and it became so hugely successful that we became a print magazine. And then we first got distribution U.S. and Canada through Ingram, one of the biggest distributors in the world. And then we got worldwide distribution, and we're also in Germany, translated into German. And to answer your question, how we got started, I have kind of a crazy story. When I was a kid at 10 years old, I died from a head injury. I had a skull fracture, and I wrote a book called My Brain Escapes Me, which you can look up Amazon and all this. So basically, I have this kind of weird start about death and my fascination with it. I'm also a writer. I write a lot of short fiction, and I started writing books. So I had that experience, and I found that girls, for some reason, are interested in corpses. I can't explain it, but we used to have corpses in our booth at Comic-Con San Diego, and girls would always come up and want to have their picture taken with the corpse. So I started saying, what's up with girls and corpses? And my life has become this crazy world of this magazine, which is a quarterly magazine, and girlsandcorpses.com, A-N-D, spelled out in the middle. You can check it out, and we sell all sorts of stuff, including things like t-shirts. We have crazy products, but it's been a great success story. We're very happy about how it's all gone, and I have a wonderful life because I'm always with beautiful models like Sarah, who's from Sweden, and she's going to be in an upcoming issue, so we're always shooting. We've had celebrities on our covers, and it's gone very, very well.
You say corpses. Are these real corpses? Are they fake corpses? What are they?
Well, I hate to shock your audience, but there are real corpses in every issue of Girls and Corpses magazine. You might have heard of something called Body Worlds Exhibit, where they plasticize bodies. We use some plasticization-like processes to make the corpses available to be able to shoot with them. So we do have corpses in the issue, absolutely, every issue.
So is this a magazine along the lines of Playboy? Is it a nude magazine, or is it something else?
Well, actually, there's no nudity in Girls and Corpses. And just to let you know that we're so far ahead of the curve, Playboy is now starting next year to have a non-nude magazine. And the reason we went non-nude is because, to me, in a lot of ways, nudity isn't creative. It is purient, that part of your mind. And creativity takes a lot more work than just having a girl with her legs spread or her clothes off. So we have no nudity in the magazine. And we've done very well with that because we were opposite the curve for 15 years. Now magazines like Playboy are thinking, oh, well, we should do that because, I mean, guys, if you can't find enough nudity on the web already, you don't know how to use your computer. So we want to show some intelligence, and our girls are clothed for that reason.
A quick question for Sarah. What draws you to this type of art, I guess? Are you freaked out by it at all?
I don't know if I can say that I like dead people in particular. I mean, I'm not a people person, but I mean, they don't have to be dead for me to be happy. But I've always liked horror. I'm also into like rock and metal music, and there's a lot of like that kind incorporated in that type of music genre. So just something that interests me. It's dark, it's different. So yeah.
Death metal, of course, we're always covering death metal bands in the magazine. So we cross over a lot of that. And also a lot of our fans are girls that are into metal and goth and all this kind of thing. But the girls we shoot very often in the magazine are more like the girls next door. They're all very kind of innocent looking and not heavily tatted up. So because there's a lot of that out there too. But the combination of a beautiful young girl next to a rotting, festering corpse, it seems to be more of an extreme difference than the girls that are tattooed.
One more thing. Do you get any complaints from people saying what you're doing is necrophilia?
Well, I love controversy, and I love, well, it is necrophilia. It's definitely something, it has the scent of necrophilia on the magazine. We're a comedy magazine doing this sort of extreme thing, but I've been at fetish events. A lot of them, people, write me about all this. But in answer to your question, I love when I get opposition. And so if you people hate me, send me letters because they're more fun to comment to people that don't like it. And I always find it's funny, we get a lot of controversy from the church. They're always telling us stop publishing and things like this, which is ridiculous because in thousands of years I can never come close to what the organized religion has done. We're not killing and torturing and molesting children and things like this. So I always think that's funny. There was a church called the Crystal Cathedral, which was one of the biggest churches in the U.S., and they sent us a thing saying, we hope you and your corpses go to die in hell or something. What was funny about the Crystal Cathedral is they wound up going bankrupt because they were stealing money from everybody. So I always just find it interesting when it's always religion. Probably the worst of the worst people in, not all people in religion, but organized religion is got some pretty bad history. They invented torture. That's where they came from. So there you go. We're not the Spanish Inquisition. We're a comedy magazine. Everybody just calm down.
I guess a final roundup of promotional things. Where can people find you? Twitter, Facebook, all that sort of good stuff. And for both of you, actually. So where can people find you online?
Well, girlsandcorpses.com. We also have a store, girlsandcorpsesstore.com, where you can buy the magazine. We're also on newsstands worldwide. We're the fastest selling magazine on a stand. Usually they get 2 copies. There was a story done on the news that we're also the most stolen magazine off newsstands because I guess people are scared to approach the register and, so they just steal it. So you can find us on newsstands. You can Google us. We've had a lot of history and a lot of news. We're about the magazine, so you'll see a lot of stories about us. Girls and Corpses, you can't miss it. And of course, Sarah, where can we see you?
Yeah, I'm on Facebook. I'm Sarah, Sara. Then on Swedish, I have a funny last name, Hedgren, Hedgren. And my website is sarahhedgren.com. So check it out.
Thank you so much, guys. It's been amazing talking to you. And honestly, I urge everyone to check out this magazine because
you need to be in it. That's why. We're going to find you a nice dead body that you can live with.
That's pretty awesome. I like the pun there as well. Not sure if it was intended. Thank you so much, guys, and we hope to see you again soon.
Cheers.
So there you have it, folks. Look for Genevieve in an upcoming issue of Girls and Corpses, apparently. Yeah, she'll be gracing the pages of Girls and Corpses, and actually that should be quite interesting. So, yeah, no, excuse me. Wow, I'm like dying here.
Goodness me.
Like
dying?
I said,
well, you know where you can end up next.
Where's that drum roll when I need it again? I saw some comment about something about the sound effect in that interview.
Oh, you know what makes a video? Sound effects. Great sound effects. Just silly little boings, and I just love them.
Yeah, things. Yes, just random things. Again, we'll be posting a whole article on Kamikaze. There's already some stuff up on the website if you want to check it out. WoTRradio.com. You can find this video and some other videos on our YouTube channel. Subscribe if you haven't. It's youtube.com/WoTRradio.com. We have a few interviews on there, some cool clips and whatnots.
And we had a Catacombs article.
The Catacombs article.
You know, I spent quite a while translating those.
The feedback has been really good on it so far.
I mean, I didn't translate them word by word. You know, I researched them and using my long gone French and Latin skills, you know, like I mished and mashed and created some interesting translations. And yeah, no, like, because I genuinely loved the poetry as I was walking through the Catacombs. And I felt that when you read translations of poetry, they don't always kind of
translate
grasp properly at the core of what the poem is about. Or it's not even a poem a lot of times. Sometimes it's like, I don't know, some of them were biblical quotes. A lot of them were apocryphal quotes. Yeah. It's not about the literal translation. It's about the artistic translation, and that's the difficulty of it. And I kind of veered between the two at times. Sometimes it was like, I'll go for the literal one. I'll go for the artistic one here, and I'll just go for the I'll just copy and paste it at this point.
I think that, you know, it was a really, really interesting article. I was there, you know, taking pictures and stuff, and I was more of the morbid, fascinated one, you know, with all the skulls and the arrangement and the amount of bones and stuff.
I was fascinated.
Mainly because my French, and mind you, I was honors French in high school. I even won an award for French.
No, you didn't.
I did.
That is BS.
I must have it somewhere.
Wow. Well, all the other people must have been speaking a different language.
Ms. Donné. That was her name, Mrs.
That's not even
Mrs.
a
Donné.
real French
No,
name.
it was an English name, but she pronounced it in French, just so that we could all get used to it.
That's
all right,
even worse.
Don't you talk bad about Ms. Donné. She was amazing. Anyways, she must be quite disappointed in me because, I was trying to make sense out of the sign, but I couldn't quite understand. The one I did understand.
What does it say? It's like, that says toilets, Frank.
I know. I was like, oh, wow, they had those back then too. No, but the one sign I liked, which was literally at the entrance, was the one that says, "Stop, here lies the empire of death." Yeah. How crazy is that? And that's just a small sample of some of the plaques that are in there. So
but you know, there's a thing about the French language, though, about when they say arrête, c'est ici l'empire, l'empire de la mort. Yeah. It's like it's here. That's the empire of death. Yeah. It's like the way they translate it. I don't know.
Yeah, it's not the greatest, but it's slightly different. Definitely check it out. It's really fascinating. I mean, if you like dark poetry and really, you know, kind of like broody quotes, there is no shortage of them. For example, another one of my favorites is the one that says, "Whichever way you turn, death will be waiting for you.
Oh, wow. They are so grim, though, right?
They're proper. I mean, this, like I said,
like
Uncle Creepy,
chill.
Professor Madness,
It's
you know,
like
that. This is like
chill.
you guys, this type of thing. We had you guys in mind when we were putting that together. And anybody else that enjoys this kind of
It's a
stuff.
compliment.
Yeah, no, it's a compliment. Absolutely. No, like I said, I'm fascinated being down there and seeing, like I said, the remains of, I think the estimate is something like 6 million remains.
Over 6 million.
Yeah.
And oh my goodness. I mean, I've done a lot of research on this and the stories are great. There were times, I mean, they were literally spilling out of these,
Yeah.
They weren't even digging them underground anymore. They were literally just putting them into enclosed areas,
Mm-hmm.
and at times they would break and bones and stuff would spill out, and it was so unhygienic, and the flesh and everything would be rotting and everyone would be smelling it, and apparently the whole area stank so much that not even perfume could overpower it.
Mm-hmm.
And
It's nuts.
I can't imagine it, and people just lived like that, like it for years and years until someone, through a long drawn out process decided that, hey, maybe we should get rid of some of this rotting human flesh. And, most of the time they didn't even bury people properly because, burials were expensive.
Yeah.
Cremation, I mean, they didn't have cremation back then, you had to bury people, etc., etc., and all of this stuff was expensive. So apparently they kind of cheated. They would throw all the other bones out and just bury one bone and then just stuff it in or something and burn the rest or something like that. They did all sorts of really awful kind of cheat techniques of burial to give people a bang for their buck, basically.
Yeah.
It's I'll bury your family member for $10, but I'll just bury their pinky and I'll burn the rest.
Yeah.
That sort of thing, weird stuff. And Paris in those days, I mean, it's fascinating to read up on because it was grim, so effing grim. And honestly, I love it. I mean, that's why I love Patrick Ziskin's The Perfume. I love that book. I read it in German and in English and then in German again. So great, so great.
I haven't read the book. I watched the movie. The movie.
And I watched the movie, and I
haven't read the book. For a lot of people said that it's pretty accurate and true to.
Oh,
the
it's
book.
so grim and lovely.
Yeah, no, it's.
I can't believe I'm
amazing.
saying that, but honestly, passionately, it's one of my favorite books ever.
Yeah. I am yet to read it, but like I said, the movie, it was quite good. Wow, it's been a jam-packed show tonight. We covered everything. I wanna send a big shout out to Steve Concotelli of the Outatime Saving the DeLorean Time Machine documentary. Definitely check it out. Check out the website, outatimemmovie.com. Spell like the license plate of the DeLorean and Back to the Future. OUTATIME movie.com. Definitely check it out. Support that. If you're a Back to the Future fan, I don't need to say anymore, honestly. And if you're not a Back to the Future fan, watch it. And I think it'll make you a believer on how amazing that movie was and how important this car is to a lot of our childhoods. I'll say that much. I also want to send a huge thank you to Ernie Alonso of Hunter Orange County and Ben Hansen for calling in tonight, giving us the lowdown of what happened at the Skyfire Summit, the 40th anniversary of that infamous event where Travis Walton was taken upon an craft with ETs. And if you want to find out more, as I mentioned, visit our website, WoTRradio.com. We have a full interview with Travis. We talked about that in the documentary. And of course, big thanks to everybody that made Kamikaze possible. We always have a blast, and we enjoy talking to all the different people out there. There's a lot of talented people, creative people that just love to have fun, and I'm all about that. I quite enjoyed it. And of course, I want to thank also Genevieve because she's been doing a lot of work on the website, putting a lot of articles up, including this amazing article from the catacombs. It's really a great read.
And rolling back to the Outatime documentary, shout out obviously to the flux capacitors. on Twitter at Flux Capacitors.
That's the coolest band name. I'm sorry.
If you're in the LA area and stuff, if you're into 80s music, check them out because they're a real live band. So
I need to talk to Steve, grab that DeLorean, travel back in time, and make sure that I get that name for my band, which I don't have, but I would if they were called the Flux Capacitors. Trust me, I would just be like playing to an empty room if necessary, but just so I can say, we're the Flux Capacitors.
That's pretty
Great
cool.
Scots.
I applaud them for getting that name before anyone else got it.
Professor Matt is asking for a link to the movie. You sure can get it. Good sir, we'll be sure to post it, send it your way. And for anybody else that wants to see it, we'll be posting it on our Twitter. Don't forget to check out the show on Twitter at WoTRradio. As always, I'm Engineer Frank on Twitter, West of the Rockies on Facebook. The website is WoTRradio.com. As always, I'm joined by my trusty co-pilot, Genevieve. That's Genevieve UA on Twitter.
Sometimes I wish I hadn't chosen a complicated name. At the same time,
Yeah, but you're screwed now, pretty much.
My parents chose her.
You know who to blame then. Genevieve UA on Twitter. If you don't know how to spell it, go to the West of the Rockies Twitter and find her there or something. And you can catch her on her very own show Thursday nights, 9 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, right here on the Independent FM. No Added Flavors with Genevieve, talking music, jokes, facts, and a whole lot more. Check it out. She'll be taking your requests and all that good stuff at No Added Flavors, OURS at the end, because in case you haven't noticed, she's got a bit of an accent.
I'll be taking it all.
Be careful how you,
No, I
Oh, this is later. Okay. Gotcha. Okay, then it's fine. And with that, we bid you guys good night. Take care, be safe, God bless, don't do anything too crazy. We want to see you back next week. I want to go out with another quote from your article. It says, "'Tis by the devil's envy, death came into the world." And I found that to be quite poetic. That being said, we're going to go out with some Porcupine Tree, my favorite track. I know it's a little long, but hey, I like to break the rules sometimes. Screw playing 3.5-minute songs every time, right? We're going to play this one, Arriving Somewhere, Not Here, because Ernie just sent me a little video of their drive right now with Ben Hansen. And let me tell you, it looks quite perilous out there driving in the highway at night.
It sounds it.
Yeah, so, we wish him well. We want him to get home safe. And we want you guys to enjoy the rest of your night. Get some rest. Have a great weekend. And we'll see you next week. Here's some Porcupine Tree. Enjoy.
Thanks for tuning in, guys.
Bye-bye, guys.
West of the Rockies with Frank the Engineer on the Independent FM, Los Angeles.